for some of the biggest and most recognizable names in the field of business, government, and philanthropy. Mr. Dejean is also the author of the soon-to-be-released The DNA of Reinvention, a blueprint for co-creating the future. And he is also credited with researching, testing, and developing the Prime Directive Leadership Program to help companies, organizations, and individuals bridge the gap between the old business model to the emerging connected marketplace. I could go on about him, but I think you're going to find out some wonderful things when he comes up here to speak for himself. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Marvin Dejean. One other quick thing real fast before we get started. If you would like to follow along on Twitter, please feel free to use the hashtag if you're tweeting, and that is hashtag GMSHRM. And if you'd like to include Mr. Dejean, his handle is at MDEJEAN. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good evening. I am so happy to be here. I was explaining to a few of you guys, I had a chance to speak to you earlier, that about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I was one of your impromptu guest speaker at your diversity and inclusion dinner. And ever since then, it was that particular moment and coming in and being invited over to hear Simon Bailey speak. And ever since then, the bug hit me and I said, I'm going to become a public speaker as well. And here I am, I'm back. So I always credit GMSHRM as being my catalyst to my start of speaking. So thank you. So I'm really excited to be here today. As David mentioned, I run a company called Gilead Sanders, which is a brand new company, about a year old. And we are a futurist firm. And what most people get when I say I'm a futurist, they always ask, what does that mean? Do I have a crystal ball and do I predict the future? And I always say, yes, I do. Now give me your money. No. Futurists and futurist firms are companies that focus and help companies such as yours, organizations, really focus on the future. What do I mean by that? What are some of the emerging trends that are happening right now in the world that are going to affect your business, affect your industry, both macro and micro trends that are reshaping the way business is done, that are reshaping our personal lives, our professional lives. So we help you stay ahead of the curve and see what's coming around corners. Our firm is a pretty specific firm in terms that we focus on 4 main areas of your business. We focus on breakthrough technologies, customized breakthrough technologies. How does it affect your specific business? Just because a company has iPads to their sales force, does it work for you? You should really know what works for you. We focus on innovation, making innovation becoming a core aspect of your business, not just something that you talk about, not something that somebody does as R&D on the side and brings out one particular product in order to run that. We focus on human capital, people. Your people are your greatest assets, and we're going to talk about that tonight. And it's no longer just a moniker say, we believe in our people, but then, you're busy firing them. No, but really, how do you transform people into your greatest asset? And finally, process. How do we turn your processes, your manual processes, into automated software as a service, platform as a service, automated services in order to unleash your strategic thinkers to do thinking work versus manual work? So that's what we do. And we do this simply by focusing on something I call a maturity map. Like I said, we focus on the 4 core areas of your business, which is human capital, or we turn your manual workers into knowledge workers. We focus on your breakthrough technologies, on enterprise, turning your business into an enterprise 2.0 model, which is a web-based automated processes, and finally on transformational innovation. At the crossroads of those 4 platforms, we believe resides the 21st century business model. This is the new model that is driving the Googles of the world, the Amazons of the world. There are more things that are involved in this, but as a small to mid-sized company, you are looking at those particular 4 quadrants in order for you to reinvent your business model and become agile, nimble, and very globalized in the 21st century. So, that being said, let's get into the real nitty-gritty, why you're here tonight. So, in case you hadn't noticed, things are changing. And things are changing very fast. You know, so we wake up every morning, we turn on the TV, we open the newspaper, and something else is shaking our way of seeing the world. Things are moving faster than we can keep up with. Things are transforming and reinventing themselves faster. It is the times that we live in. It's okay. Now, what we have to do, we are what we call the immigrant generation. So we are the generation that's really at the cross of this crossroad with the next generation, our kids, our children, and our children's children really going to run this new economy. But in the meantime, we're here, we're in the marketplace, and we have to learn how to mitigate those changes. And today, HR is going to be at the center of change. The seismic change that we see coming, HR, the role of HR managers or chief human resources officers is going to change overnight. We see about 6 major trends that are redefining the role of HR in the 21st century. Whether you believe me or not, whether you think it's going to happen or not, I guarantee you if you are in the HR field, whether you're a consultant, whether you run a small business, or you're part of a larger corporation, you are going to start seeing those effects. And tonight I wanted to share those 6 areas with you and really talk to you about what we see the human capital trends happening starting in 2012, 2013, and definitely beyond. So, what's on the mind of CEOs? What's on the mind of your clients nowadays? Growth is still leading the charge. People, even though there's an economic recession, growth is still in the mind of companies. They still continue to want to grow. What's driving that particular sense of growth? There are 3 major trends that we see happening today. One is emerging markets. In case you hadn't noticed, the countries like the US and Europe, our GDP and our economies are becoming flatline, where we're seeing the rise of emerging markets like China, India, Latin America. Can anyone else tell me the 5 fastest growing emerging markets today? Brazil, China, India, Latin America, right? And one more. Can anybody guess? Nope. Guess again. Nope, Africa. Africa is one of the fastest growing emerging markets, believe it or not, in the agricultural field and also in technology. I was shocked to see it, but it's actually true and it's happening. So now you're seeing companies really looking at emerging markets not just to shift labor costs towards cheap labor, but really looking at tapping into the greater capabilities of emerging markets. In China and in India, we're starting to see the emergence of engineers, business people with the acumen and the capability that before in the US, there was no comparison. But now emerging markets are not just a place for companies to shift their labor costs, but it's also where they're tapping the biggest growth. So as an HR person, what you're going to be faced with is really how do you tap into leadership and talent strategy into these emerging markets. It's coming. Number 2, mergers and acquisitions. We're going to see the growth of the barbell-shaped economy. The barbell-shaped economy is where we're seeing larger corporations becoming larger by going through M&As and snapping up mid-sized firms that they are using in order to reach niche markets and also to grow into emerging markets. So we're going to see a rise of M&A probably along the same line of what we saw in the 1980s, but probably much more towards larger corporations snapping up mid-sized firms. What we're going to see at the underside of that is a spate of large growth towards small entrepreneurs. So people like myself hanging up their shingles, there's going to be more women, more immigrants, more younger people, and boomers moving into hanging up their shingles and becoming entrepreneurs. So we're starting to see the growth of that barbell-shaped economy, and M&A is driving that conversion. And finally, innovation. More and more CEOs and more companies are looking at their HR people to drive innovation across the enterprise. No longer is innovation seen as something that is driven towards R&D, but it's really driven by what's happening towards people, process, talent management, and talent strategy within the organization. The HR community is going to be front and center in the middle of innovation. So we're going to see HR driving growth through human capital. So you're going to be managing talent with growth in mind. When you're hiring people, you're going to hire people as how can they bring in, help this company and the CEO grow the company, not just here but abroad. You're going to groom leaders who can drive growth globally. So internally, or as you're buying in your leaders, can they drive growth? So ROI is going to be very, very important in terms of how leaders are being groomed internally. And finally, we're going to see the rise of HR people coaching the executive team on how to become better leaders. So when you think about what HR is going to do and become, you're going to move from a purely transactional role to a strategic role. And it's already begun happening in some of the larger corporations. It's trickling its way down. And finally, you're going to move away from just doing, risk mitigation or those kind of benefit issues to moving right next to the C-suite and really helping the CEO drive growth through strategy and people strategy. Not just any kind of strategy, but people strategy. So CEOs are going to be looking towards CHROs to really help them. How do you mitigate the risk with people, and how do you drive growth through executive leadership and coaching? The second trend that we see, the rise of global markets. It's already happening. We're going from globalization being a moniker to actually happening. What we're seeing is with the rise of technology, collaborative technologies, and things where people don't need to be in the same physical time and space in order to do business, is rise of the global markets. Again, emerging markets are leading the way, and we're moving towards what we call a multi-speed global economy, versus one area might be organized around slow growth or flat growth, but at the same token, an HR professional also needs to be able to manage emerging markets where there might be rapid growth. So you're going to be balancing both of those paradigms at the same time and creating growth and opportunity for the company that you're working for. So global talent markets, you're going to be looking at talent that drives diversity throughout the enterprise and being able to bring talent from one end of the globe spectrum all the way up to the other one. Cost pressures are also forcing companies to look at emerging markets and moving away from traditional roles. And finally, hyperconnectivity. People are going to start moving from place to place, country to country, area to area, zone to zone. And as an HR professional, you're going to have to tap into technology and social media and portals in order to be able to continue your HR role for those individuals. So again, rapid shift that we're seeing where people are saying 78% of CEOs plan to make changes to their talent strategy in response of the global business environment. Now, some of you might be, well, we're a small firm, or I'm a consultant, and I'm not really looking at globalization. You're wrong. You would be very wrong. Simply because globalization is starting to move from a macro level, and it's not just focused on major corporations, but it's also moving into the micro level. So what we're seeing is small companies, sooner or later, are going to start tapping into the infrastructure of large corporations in order to be able to do business globally. So your clients, even though you may be a small firm or a one-man show, your clients may be in India, China, Brazil, and you're going to be tapping into larger infrastructure like cloud in order to be able to do business with knowledge-based clients. So what we're seeing is the role of HR will undergo a fundamental change. Let me rephrase that. The role of HR is undergoing a fundamental change. So as an HR individual, you need to start thinking of yourself as a strategic leader that can actually drive the strategic plan of your company. So you need to start thinking about designing your HR competencies around global models and really tapping into technology and demographic changes to do that. You need to help the CEO manage the global pipeline. What is it that they're going to need in terms of people down the line in order to be able to do business globally? And finally, like my grandmother, who was 100 years old, who just passed away a week ago, used to say to me all the time, Marvin, nobody likes change except a wet baby. So, you, as an HR leader, will be leading that change, ladies and gentlemen. There is going to be resistance to that change. I guarantee you. It's already starting to happen. But as the HR principal, you are going to start leading that change from the CEO all the way top to the boardroom, all the way down to the lowest level of the organization. So be prepared for that role. Prepare yourself and know exactly what it requires. Another trend that we're seeing, leadership. Now you're starting to hear a lot about leadership and how important it is in organizations. Leadership is going to be the fundamental glue that allows organizations to grow and to thrive, right? But HR has a role to play in that. One of the areas that we see major growth in is what we call ALD, or Accelerated Leadership Development. Again, as we're seeing the global pipeline grow, we're seeing aggressive growth targets from companies with no loyalty from individuals anymore. No one is going to be working for any company for 30, 40 years and expecting to retire. And there is a growth and leadership gap. With the economic recession, especially in developed countries, what we see is older workers trenching in, not retiring. So you're seeing a wide gap in the pipeline with the millennials looking for jobs. That is going to be a dangerous situation for companies because as the older set starts retiring and leaving the workforce, if you don't have that talent pipeline in there, companies are going to see that leadership gap. That's going to create a situation for them. So HR, again, is going to develop the next generation of leaders, but it needs to create that in a systematic, strategic way. A caveat for this. Here, we're starting to see the emergence of the new ruling class. And the new ruling class, ladies and gentlemen, are women. For the first time in Congress, we have more women being elected to Congress like never before. I was reading this morning before coming here that for the first time in Broward County School Board is nothing but women commissioners. Women are becoming entrepreneurs, CEOs. They actually affected the last elections, as you can see that. So if you overlook women as a talent strategy within that pipeline, you do so at your own risk. Guaranteed. So women are going to become the new ruling class when it comes to the 21st century model business. So as an HR individual, you need to focus on what is going to create that leadership pipeline. Those 3 E's are experience, exposure, and education. Experience. You need to be able to identify the individuals within the organization, small or large, who are going to become the next leaders of your organization. Not necessarily the CEOs, but people who are part of the C-suite or managers. You need to be able to give them the experience that they're looking for in order to become the better individuals or the best individuals to run the company or to have strategic positions in the company. So it's no longer just coaching them and mentoring them, but really giving them opportunities within different parts of the organization that allows them to experience and grow their experience as managers or leaders. Exposure. No longer are they looking for just coaching and mentoring. What they're looking for is sponsors within the organization and having access to other leaders in order for them to be seen, recognized, and given an opportunity to go through the pipeline. And finally, education. Not just, going back to school, but what type of education that marries both virtual and actual experience that allows them to really gain much more experience and much more education as they go. Here's the prediction for the 21st century. Talent acquisition and talent strategy, bar none, is going to become the most hard-fought asset when it comes to companies. It's larger corporations, small corporations, everyone is going to be looking for that strategic, innovative thinker. It's going to be as precious as gold. And people and organizations are going to be fighting for those individuals. If you do not prepare and mitigate the risk and provide leadership opportunities to your best thinkers and your best knowledge workers, guess what? They're going to be gone the next day because there will be no loyalty. So finally, this is the biggest role that HR is going to start playing. Risk mitigation. Bar none, there are people risk, human capital risk are expanding. When you hear things like, the General Petraeus scandal, or you hear things like Lance Armstrong, those things, if those things were part of an organization or a company, it has the opportunity to break down the whole process, or the whole process of growth, or the whole process of opportunity for that company. As an HR professional, you are now going to be called upon to help mitigate the human capital risk. What are the risks that people bring to the organization? Are they prepared to leave the organizations? Are they prepared to stay? And you're going to be asked to report on data for each individual. People risk are headline news. I don't need to explain that. Little things that used to happen nowadays are now turned into scandals, right? So when you hear people cooking the books, when you hear people, whistleblowing, et cetera, anything has the opportunity to derail a company. So now the HR manager or the HR professional is asked to mitigate those risks. So be prepared to move into the risk management element of your profession. So in risk mitigation, you need to align HR function with business strategy. I think I was at my table, someone was mentioning that earlier today, that sometimes HR individuals have no idea what the business goals are. You guys are focused on compliance, on regulation, risk litigation, but you have no idea, you're not helping the CEO grow. So you need to move from, a tactical motive to a very strategic thinking motive and align your functions to a business strategy. Use data, and we're going to talk a little bit about that next. Use data to mitigate risk. HR departments have so much data. You have so much data on individuals, but yet we don't use them. Keep it in silos, and you don't know, and believe it or not, that data can help mitigate the risk and can tell you predictively what that individual employee is going to do, not do, or what kind of productivity level that they're going to have. So start managing your data in a very intelligent way in order to become strategic and manage people risk across the enterprise. So here is the biggest thing, again, the shift that we're starting to see where companies are asking the HR department to really give them human capital ROI. And all that boils down to is productivity. For every person that I hire, I know what the cost is. I know what the labor cost is. But what is the return on investment on that individual based on the work that they're doing? Are they helping to drive growth? Are they helping growth in emerging markets? Are they helping the company move towards its strategic objectives? So what we're seeing in developed countries is exactly what's happening now. We're starting to see employee costs rise, but for a lot less return. With a flat market, with a flat GDP return, CEOs and boards are becoming a lot more worried, saying, what kind of ROI are we getting for the kind of individuals that we're paying for, right? So people are going back to school, they're getting their degrees, and they expect to be having this level of remuneration. But again, companies are not seeing the level of ROI that they want to see. So they want people to do with a lot more with less, or do the same do a lot more with what we have already. So how does the HR professional really convert ROI? I found this ROI equation from PwC online, which I thought was a very good equation on how to evaluate or value ROI. It's revenue minus non-people costs divided by FTEs times average remuneration. This is a great starting point in order for you to start developing an HC ROI. If you can start giving both data and numbers to your CEO or to the board about what the kind of level of productivity that each employee is giving to the organization, that starts moving your role into a strategic role of helping growth and development. So start thinking about what each individual brings, not just anecdotally, but buttressed by data. And finally, predictive analytics. This is the new wave, ladies and gentlemen. More and more companies now are coming out with predictive analytics for the HR professional, and they're helping you decide what's the ROI on each individual. When to hire, when to fire, when an individual is looking to leave, when are they looking to stay. Did the hiring that you did, was it a right hire at the right source, and can that person be part of that leadership pipeline that we talked about? So HR has a vital role to play in this and begin to start playing a role of the future. So all of you within the field of HR are going to start doing my job, right? You're going to be you're going to be forward-looking, using predictive analytics in order to say whether or not these individuals are ready to be part of the leadership pipeline. Can they help growth? You're going to manage talent acquisition. You're going to be able to tell the CEO and the board whether or not the new hire was the right hire and what you predict this new hire is going to be providing to the organization. Finally, talent potential and progression. Again, the leadership pipeline that we talked about earlier. And then finally, proactive retention. How do we make sure that the talent that we have is not really ready to embark? So what we're starting to see are larger and larger corporations really moving towards blurring the lines between professional and personal lives of their employees. So what we're looking at is the prediction of the future is larger corporations are actually going to start paying for housing, education, everything in order to keep the employee contained within the organization and not moving towards the competitors. So we're probably seeing that down the line. But again, as you're looking at technology, start using your portal, social media, and work tools in order to start keeping data analytics of your workforce. Language capabilities, what's predictive analytics, and being able to give, a whole history and biography of your employees from the minute that they walk through your door to the time that they leave. So start leveraging those kind of analytics in order for you to become a strategic part of your organization and not a tactical one. So, in conclusion, what we're seeing is we're predicting the rise of the future work skills is going to be radically different from what we see today, right? We're going to see people looking at strategic thinking, large computational elements, new media ecology, globally connected world, virtual collaboration. All of these things are going to be part of the infrastructure of the new workforce, the new economy. As an HR professional, you're going to be in the middle of driving that change. I cannot emphasize that enough. You are going to be leading these organizations into this new economy, this new marketplace that we see emerging by every day when we open the newspaper or when we watch television. So the 5 takeaways that I would say that you need to really think about as an HR professional. 1, align talent strategy with business strategy. Know what the business objectives are and know how HR plays a role in helping those business objectives come to light. 2, grow your leaders. You are going to become the reason or the pipeline for leaders within an organization. If you know how to grow them, if you know how to identify them, the more chances of keeping them and helping the CEOs in the company reach their strategic objectives. Focus on productivity levels for accurate ROI. Productivity is going to be the new mantra. It's not anecdotal. It's not because somebody knows the CEO's girlfriend or whatever. It's really going to be driven by data. And you have to collect that data. What level of productivity? Move away from the 9 to 5. This person needs to be at their desk from 9 to 5. Start helping CEOs think the big picture. You don't care where this person is working, as long as they're connected, as long as they're focused on quality and deadlines, this is what you want. Productivity, not time. Globalization will drive a diversity strategy. For those of you who were uncomfortable with diversity, who never had to think about diversity, guess what? It's coming, and it's here to stay. Globalization is real. It's going to come. It's already on its way. And as an HR professional, you are going to be focused on helping deal with globalization. Whether you're having your clients come from different parts of the world, or you're driving your talent strategy from different parts of the world, or talent pool from different parts of the world, globalization is going to affect your business. And finally, use technology to forecast the future. I always tell my client, most of the time I go to my clients and I say I'm a futurist, and I help them focus on emerging trends that can affect their business. 99% of the time, I get the response, Marvin, I'm busy running my business. I gotta keep the lights on. But guess what? If you wake up 5 years later and you may have survived the tsunami, but you wake up and there's some emerging trends or there's some amazing things that are happening that are transforming the marketplace that wipes away your whole industry or your business, then you're no longer there. So spend at least 1 to 5% of your time thinking about the future. Step out of the bubble, look at the world through fresh eyes, allow other people who may be thinking differently from you, allow them an opportunity to speak to you or to read or to view what is happening around the curve that is going to affect your business, because they are there. A good example I always like to tell my clients is a company that could have used a futurist firm is a company like Blockbuster, right? Or Kodak, right? If they saw what was happening around the corner, it would have been prepared and it would have probably still been around. So don't think those things can't happen to your industry or to your business. It's coming. Technology is here to stay, and it's not going to slow down. So, that's it. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. I say that the transformation that's happening in our society is not just focused on particular sectors or particular industries, but they're focused overall on everything. So not-for-profits really need to move away from a philanthropy model or philanthropy-based solely model to really something that focuses on selling impact. So you're going to have to sell the services or the good or the goodness that you're doing to corporations. Because now, just like human capital ROI, they're looking to buy, impact from organizations versus just giving you a check because you're doing something great. There's probably, at least 1 million not-for-profit organizations now doing 1 million different things. People get bombarded all the time about different things. Now people want to buy impact versus just saying, I want to give you money just for the sake of giving money.
And I just have one more question.
Please, absolutely.
And you talk about focusing on the fact that people are going to be providing quality and meeting deadlines as opposed to
Time and space, yes, yes.
How do you get people to make that move?
That transition?
Yes.
Yes, so that is...
Especially when you're tied to taxpayer dollars.
Well, again, what you need to be able to prove is productivity levels, right? So again, this is why data is becoming so important. Why we see the rise of big data, where we see predictive analytics, and everything else, where data is really showing how you're getting the work done. It's not when you get the work done, it's how you get the work done. There are some people who wake up and work at best at 3 o'clock in the morning. There are others who work well by the beach. There are other people who need more of the structure of being in an office. It doesn't matter. Give each individual the opportunity to work where they do the best productivity level. So we need to move away from the idea that everybody needs to have the same template in order to be able to do the same productivity level. Again, as HR managers and as CEOs of your companies, you know for a fact that if you have employees, just because they're at the office doesn't mean that they're being productive, right? They could be using Facebook, they're watching YouTube, but they're probably productive maybe 2 hours out of the 8-hour day. But when they're home, they tell you, look, if I stay home and I don't have to deal with traffic, I get more work done in 5 hours than I do all day or all week. So know exactly what the level of productivity of each of your employees is and be able to combine them with the kind of project that really helps them do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
2 slides back, please.
Hmm?
I got a quick question I want to drill down on one thing.
A second.
Okay, superstructured organizations. Can you talk just a little bit about what is meant by that?
Superstructured organizations are organizations that are really going to be using value creation to really create a new form of business model. So what we're calling them are organizations that focus on old models and new models to create value. So what clients want now, because what we're seeing is the rise of the sophisticated client. So what do I mean by that? A client in the old days when we were consultants and we went to a client and said, look, you need X, I know how to do X. So I went into my black box and did X, right? And came back and gave it to my client. Now my client has access to that same information that I have. They can go on Google, they can talk to other people across the world and get a better pricing for doing X. So now we're seeing the rise of the super sophisticated clients. So superstructured organizations are organizations that are going to be using all of those elements in order to create value for their clients versus just, products or services that can be bought anywhere. So this is where, again, innovation is really becoming a differentiation, right? Or creativity or collaboration is becoming a differentiation. Because guess what? For any individual client, and you're going to start seeing that squeeze happening even more so, a product is a product is a product. A service is a service is a service. If I don't have a relationship with you, if cost is an issue, I can go to India, I can go to China and Brazil and get the same kind of service. With globalization and collaborative technologies, time and space is no longer an issue for me. So now I'm going to have to create something else that differentiates me, and that's the value creation. The superstructured organizations is what we're seeing is people using social technologies like social platforms, social media to really create value creation both in the service and the knowledge-based industry.
So I just want to make sure I understand it. So an organization, a company is using all of these supporting structures and incorporating it into their own organization.
Yes.
Is that what you're
Absolutely. And the way that they're doing it is, what we're seeing is, how many of you, maybe got sold into social media, right, when it first came in, and you said, man, this would be great to go into my organization. But you have to convince the CEO, the C-suite, that social media had a business practice. So what people did is when they finally realized that everybody was using social media, they tried to make it fit into the old business model. And it really didn't happen because then sooner or later what happened 6 months later, that you had the CFO or anybody says, social media doesn't work. We didn't get any sales. Well, social media was not based on sales. It's a relationship marketing tool. And understanding what exactly it's for and what kind of value it brought to your organization was a very different kind of conversation. So we're seeing organizations like that really taking all of those superstructures and really overlaying them seamlessly together. So earlier when I talked about breakthrough technologies, innovation, and workforce, automated workforce, I'm not talking about those things in their individual box. I'm saying how do they work seamlessly together in order to create a 21st century business model. Because if you're plugging just one of them, each one of them individually, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. Yes?
And so to illustrate your point with regards to data, there's actually an application that we're using that's surveying young people between the ages of 18 and 35 roughly on their perceptions about their living environment. So
Right.
that data is what's driving how we're sort of predictively analyzing if someone's a flight risk.
Right.
Of leaving Miami or
Yes.
the city because of opportunity, work-life balance, whatever it is that may be applicable. So that's just an example that I wanted to
Absolutely.
And then ask the question, what other ways are you seeing applications and systems being applied to HR and also to talent retention and acquisition?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what we're starting to see is the next generation of employees coming in expecting these new level of technologies to be available to them. So Young talent are coming in, they're expecting to be hyper-connected, they're expecting to be able to have that fluidity, to be able to do work whenever they feel, wherever they feel they're comfortable doing it, and they're expecting the organization to really drive their talent potential. So again, what we're seeing is technology, again, is merging in terms of the productivity level of organization because the talent pool is expecting that. So again, the next generation is really going to be very different from us in terms of what they want and what they expect. And because they're going to become strategic thinkers, they're going to expect to have the tools to be able to do the work that they do whenever, anytime, anywhere, 24/7 society. Make sense? Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about constraint models, and especially in relation to what you're talking about, a new level of worker?
And we're rolling. Okay.
Just a general overview
Yeah.
of the
What did you think?
presentation. I thought that it was a very, very well covered topic. Marvin's approach to really looking at a holistic HR experience and looking at building beyond transactional HR to the transformational leader, business acumen, and really new HR competencies is going to be very valuable in how businesses partner and how HR becomes part of the C-suite. He did an excellent presentation, a great command of the knowledge, and was able to share very insightful responses to different industry questions that were posed. We'd love to have him back, and it was a great experience to have him here today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, you have done that before. So, okay. I'm recording. Are you recording? Okay. So, what did you think about Marvin's presentation today?
I enjoyed it so much. I had made his acquaintance before the meeting, so I was getting a sense of what he does. But I feel so in tune with him because I've been a human resources person on the inside in a corporation for years, and now I'm a consultant. So I've experienced the very things that he says are coming. And I also have been functioning as a consultant to a lot of small businesses who really need to focus on the future and how HR would look for them. I've been coaching those executives who are putting into place the infrastructure that they need in order to run their company with an eye towards what's going to happen in the future. So everything he was saying, I thought, wow, this is my life. I guess I'm changing as I go and learning new things. And I'm thrilled to be able to be a part of it. So I really could relate to what he was saying and was glad to hear it because I thought, okay, I guess I'm on the right track. And hopefully it will continue.
Perfect. That was very, very good. Yeah. Thank you very much.
What do you think about Marvin's presentation?
To the camera.
To the camera. Okay, recording.
I thought the presentation was insightful, very well thought out and well presented. The information in it was very relevant to my industry, particularly because I'm in technology. And I think it really provided a lot of value to the folks here in HR to start thinking about organizational development, their role as being central to the future success of their organization.
Perfect. Thank you very much.